Today we're using cards like this Stonebrain and Kotose to try to exile every single non-land card from our opponent's deck to make it so they could never win the game. Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have a hilarious deck today. The goal of our deck today is to exile every single meaningful card from our opponent's deck to make it so no matter how hard our opponent tries, they can't actually kill us because they just don't have any meaningful cards in their deck. So our goal is to cast as many Stonebrains and Deadly Cover-Ups and Kotose the Silent Spiders as possible. So each of these cards, in their own way, lets us pick a card. Sometimes, like the end, it has to be a creature or planeswalker on the battlefield. Deadly Cover-Up, it has to be something in the graveyard. But it lets us pick a card, and it exiles all the copies of that card from our opponent's deck. So this is a deck that, in some ways, not exactly in its play pattern, but in theory, is a lot like Lantern Control in Modern. If you remember Lantern Control in Modern, the idea of Lantern Control is you know your opponent's deck really well, and you get to see what they're going to draw each turn, and you get to decide, does this card actually matter? If it matters, then you mill it. If it doesn't matter, then you let your opponent draw it. That's kind of the same theory with this deck, but in Standard. And the reason this deck can exist is we are right in the middle of Outlaws of Thunder Junction spoiler season, and we've essentially reached Standard's maximum size and our maximum knowledge about the format. The next set after Outlaws of Thunder Junction is Bloomburrow. That brings with it rotation. So if you look at Standard, the tier decks are very well known, and the cards in those decks are really well known. Like, think about the Domain deck, for example. If you play a bunch of Standard, I'm sure you could name off every single card that is going to be in most Domain decks that can possibly kill you. It's like Atraxa, Herd Migration, Archangel Wrath, Topiary Stomper, maybe the Battle Fiend, flip it. And the same is true of pretty much every deck in Standard. Think about Dimir, Preacher of the Schism, Sheoldred, maybe some Bats, maybe some Lilianas. Think about Boros Convoke, Knight Errant of Eos, a bunch of token making stuff. Control, it's going to be Wandering Emperor, maybe some wedding announcements, maybe an Ezra. When you get to the combo decks, it's even easier, like the Landfall combo decks, Nissa, Aftermath Analyst, Splendid Reclamation, Slogurk. So each deck in Standard has a handful of cards that actually matter. These are the cards that our opponent's going to try to use to actually kill us, and the rest of the deck is going to be a bunch of removal, in some cases ramp spells, other various support cards. So the theory of our deck today is because we know what's in our opponent's decks, because Standard is at its maximum size and has been around for a while, we can use Stonebrain's Ends, Deadly Cover-Up, Kotoses to just exile every meaningful card from our opponent's deck. If we really do it right, we might be able to exile every non-land card from our opponent's deck, which will just make it so our opponent can never actually kill us. And eventually, once they can't kill us, they'll probably just scoop the game. Worst case, we can just kind of mill them out. The weird thing about these cards is, along with getting rid of our opponent's important threats, they kind of work like mill spells. Like, if we Stonebrain, our opponent's going to lose 4 cards out of their deck, so it's kind of a mill 4 in a weird way. We also have Jace the Perfected Mind, which Jace, it does end up being our finisher a lot of times, because we just like exile a bunch of stuff and then eventually mill our opponent with Jace, but it wasn't really put in the deck to be our finisher. The thing about our deck is 2 of our exile effects, Deadly Cover-Up and Kotose, require cards in the graveyard. Deadly Cover-Up, we need cards in our graveyard to collect evidence. Kotose needs cards in our opponent's graveyard to then get rid of all copies of it. So Jace just comes down and fills our graveyard, fills our opponent's graveyard, and then in some cases, after we exile all the meaningful cards from our opponent's deck, it just ends up milling our opponent out of the game. The rest of the deck, just a bunch of removal and card draw, so we just stay alive as we're exiling every single threat from our opponent's library. Mana base, pretty typical Standard stuff in the sideboard, counters, discards, planeswalkers for control, removals, some life gain for aggro, and that is our deck. Planning to exile literally every single card that could possibly kill us from our opponent's library, and trusting that our opponent will eventually just scoop when they realize they can't actually kill us with what's left of their deck. So that's our plan for today. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll be back in a bit for the wrap-up. Need some magic cards? Well, you can snag them from our sponsor, Card Kingdom, over at cardkingdom.com/mtggoldfish. We've got new tokens and playmats, and you can even get the tokens signed if you want. Check them all out over at mtggoldfishmerch.com. We are trying to exile all of our opponent's win conditions. Every single one. Make it so it's literally not possible that our opponent can win because they don't have any cards that can kill us. That's our goal for today. Oh, Mono White on the play. Ugh. All right, probably gonna need to draw a Wrath at some point. Guardian of New Benalia A. I mean, this hand can exile some stuff, though. Stonebrain, Kotose, and the end. Well, do we play a Stonebrain or do we just deduce? Yeah, let's just pass, I think, and draw. I don't even know. What do you name with Stonebrain here? Adeline, maybe? Coppercoat Vanguard. Well, let's draw a card. I mean, I think we're really going to need to find a Wrath. We need a Path of Peril. Oh, double Jace. I mean, Jace is important to the deck. It fills our graveyard, fills our opponent's graveyard, both of which are important, but not what we need right now against this aggro deck. Oh, more deduces. Maybe we just play a Jace. Kind of a distraction Jace. We know our opponent can attack it down, but we can take it up to minimize the Coppercoat Vanguard. If our opponent wants to kill it, they're going to have to attack it twice. This is essentially Jace to gain life. Jace the life gain spell. Oh, we just need time. We need time to get things set up. Next turn, boy. The ward on this Coppercoat Vanguard. Oh, all right, that deals with the Jace. The ward on the Coppercoat Vanguard is actually annoying. We would like to the end the Guardian, but unfortunately, thanks to the ward, a little bit too much mana. Opponent going to hit us. Scry 2, sure, enlist. What a flop of a mechanic. I'm pretty sure Guardian's the only enlist card that sees even any play, isn't it? And even that doesn't see that much play. Well, there's a Path of Peril. Oh, this is so awkward. Guardian's actually really good here. So the ward means we can't the end it. Path of Peril means I can just discard a card to save it. We might have to just the end the Coppercoat Vanguard and then go from there. Yeah, let's get rid of the Coppercoat Vanguard. I think this is the best we can do. At least that gets rid of the ward for the future. We also get some very important information. So Coppercoat Vanguards, Knights, Adelines, Thalias, Brutal Cathars, Recruitment Officers, Hopeful Initiates. All right. Well, now we know what we're aiming for. So I think Knights have a lot of value because our opponent has 2 in hand. Adeline has a lot of value. Brutal Cathar is a 4 of. Thalia is a 4 of. If you play this deck, it's kind of like playing Lantern Control in the sense that knowing what's in our opponent's deck is really important. Or else, like, our Stonebrains are bad, or everything gets way worse if we don't know what our opponent's up to. All right, opponent, what do you got? Plains and Hopeful Initiate, sure. And Intrepid Adversary. Well, now we probably just have to Wrath. Our opponent can save the Guardian, but we're still at 10. Ooh, there's a land. Okay. So I guess we can, yeah, let's Path of Peril. I assume our opponent discards probably a Knight. The Knight's not very good with your board not being full. And then we could run out Stonebrain or just deduce. So opponent does discard a Knight, saves the Guardian. Yeah, let's just pass, I think, and draw. We can't activate Stonebrain this turn anyway. Opponent. All right, so we only got one thing exiled so far. We need to exile some more stuff. Opponent definitely has way too many win guns left in their deck. Intrepid Adversary. And our life total is starting to get low. Opponent hits us. Well, let's draw a card. So many Stonebrains. So many Stonebrains. Down to 8. Can we stabilize here? Well, let's Kotose. At least Kotose can block. What are we going to exile with Kotose? Let's go Knight to get the Knight out of hand. Our opponent gets to draw. Oh, Ossification. We didn't really want to see Ossification. All right, well, second playset of Finishers exiled. We're getting there slowly. We can play a Knight at some point, although it's kind of just a 4/4. Kotose is a blocker. Oh boy, this is going to be sketchy. I mean, we might just be dead. We still really need to draw Wrath, because they can just exile the Kotose with Ossification. We really could use a Wrath here. Otherwise, we're kind of dead. I guess we can survive a turn with the Jace. Oh, Deadly Cover-Up. Okay, that is the perfect draw. Well, let's blow him up. Opponent can't save the Guardian. Collect a little evidence. And get rid of the Guardian. Oh no. Oh Oh, no. No. After my big speech about how it's important to know what's in your opponent's deck, I don't know why I thought Guardian was one of the cards. It's just a one-up. Okay, that was a bit of a punt. That's okay. That's okay. We're still good. The Wrath was the big thing. We kind of wasted the exiling, but we do have 2 Stone Brains. The Jace can slow down this Hopeful Initiate. We might be stabilizing. We might be stabilizing at 3 life. Oh, that was brutal, though. Yeah, we definitely should have hit, like, Intrepid Adversary or something. Well, draw a card with a clue. Ooh, another Kotose is actually pretty good. This time we will name something that's in our opponent's deck. I promise. I think I'm going to have to start, like, writing down card names to make sure we're exiling the right thing. Let's go Intrepid Adversary. So we get rid of all of them. So we got to get rid of Adeline's, Brutal Cathars, Thalia's, Recruitment Officers, 4. But we have 2 Stone Brains. Are we actually just doing this? Are we going to actually exile all their Wind Gods? We can play an Intrepid Adversary, just have another blocker. And yeah, I guess we draw with Jace now. We're kind of stable. Milia. So milling the opponent is good for deadly cover-ups because we can exile something that we mill. Opponent plays a land. Can we just double Stone Brain? Oh, triples. We're drawing all the Stone Brains. Okay. So Stone Brain. Probably Adeline. We know there's 4 of those in our opponent's deck. Oh, we're going to do it. Oh, we're actually doing it. I didn't think this would actually work this well. Okay. So get rid of all the Adelines. Step number 1. Draw with Jace. Milia.
I will clear.
Wow, another deadly cover-up. This is actually happening. Stone Brain. I think we just pass for this turn. Leave up the clue drawing. We're actually... Thalia, sure. We might actually be there, though. I don't know if our opponent has enough gas left in their deck to kill us. More deduces. Well, all right, Stone Brain. What are we getting rid of this time, opponent? How about all of your Brutal Cathars? Thalia's, Hopeful Initiates, Recruitment Officers, and I guess Skrelv, although Skrelv definitely is not going to beat us. 3. We need to exile 3 more things. At some point, we can deadly cover up too. Stone Brain. I can't. This is against aggro too. Let's get rid of all the Recruitment Officers. I think that's what they have the most of. Okay, 2 Thalias, 2 Hopeful Initiates, 3 Skrelvs. We're gonna do it. Take up the Jace. Pass the. It's how you gonna win if you ain't got no finishers, opponent. This looks wrong, but we're just gonna deadly cover up. We're wrathing our own board, but we can get rid of all the Thalias or Hopeful Initiates now. Let's go Thalias. Oh, we're so close. Hopeful Initiate Skrelv. And then our opponent literally has only lands left in their deck. Took up the Jays, pass the turn. And if our opponent does draw a creature, yeah, we're just going to deduce. It doesn't really matter. More Jaces. About it. I mean, I think we could win with Jace, but I really want to try to exile literally all the threats. Oh, that's a Stone Brain number 4. Okay. Hopeful Initiate Skrelv, and they're literally all gone. Let's go Skrelv. That's what I got the most of. Yeah, 3 Skrelvs, 2 Hopeful Initiates, and then it's just lands. Deadly cover-up. No wrathing. Just to exile. And then we did it. Then our opponent literally has... we exiled every single creature from their deck. It's all lands. We exiled every single one. I didn't think this... Look at that. I didn't think it was actually this easy. I guess we mill ya. Our opponent's just gonna... They have 11 lands in their deck. Just mill all the lands. You're go. An opponent scoops it up. And that was the dream. Right off the bat, very first match, we exiled every single threat, everyone from their deck, and then milled the lands that were left over. Oh, how beautiful. How beautiful. Against aggro even, which seems like a tricky matchup. Yeah, I guess it's hard to win if you don't have any Don't have any threats left in your deck. Who knew? Let's just keep doing that. Let's just exile it all every time. This hand seemed good. I mean, we got some removal, we got some exile stuff, couple of lands. See what our opponent's up to. What are you up to, Benison85? Oh, toxic. Ugh. All right, well, gotta kill that Rot Priest. Gotta kill the Rot Priest. That is probably the scariest card out of toxic. Well, this is another matchup where we're probably going to need a Wrath, opponent land, and Blight Belly Rat. I once drafted 6 of those. It did not go as well as I hoped. Let's just pass. Land on Phyrexian. All right, I'm gonna poison us up to 2. Also, when Blight Belly dies, it is going to proliferate us. Build a Squeldwella and more rats. Well, let's draw a card. The end. Ooh, Deadly Cover-Up. Oh, okay, so we need a land for the Deadly Cover-Up. So if we wait, we go to 5, proliferate 6, 7. I mean, 7's a lot, but it's not dead. We really just got to make sure we hit a land for next turn. There's a land, so we're just going to take our beats. We're going to take our beats, and then we're going to Deadly Cover-Up and see if we can stabilize at 7 poison. Roaming Throne. Oh, that's actually super bad. Oh, that's gonna double the death trigger. All right, so we get a 5. Well, let's deduce. But now when we Wrath, we're gonna go to 9. So the problem with being at 9 is any proliferate spell kills us. Well, let's Deadly Cover-Up. We have to Deadly Cover-Up. We're also going to get to look at our opponent's deck and see what we need to be scared of. Let's get rid of the Rot Priest. Those can kill us easily. Infectious Bite, Tiver Stand. So Vraska proliferates. Drown in Ichor proliferates. The card draw, Infectious Inquiry, is direct poison. I mean, we have removal, so we can deal with the creatures. So I guess we're looking, we got to get rid of Vraskas, Infectious Inquiries, Drown in Ichors, and I think that's... And then we have to not play a creature because of Infectious Bite. So I don't think we can play this Kotose. It's too risky, at least yet. We also might need to get rid of the Tiver Stands because if our opponent draws a toxic creature, yeah, we go up to 9. If our opponent draws a toxic creature, we need to be able to exile it. I mean, we can't just Stonebrain. We are going to have to get rid of the Tiver Stand at some point. So let's Stonebrain the Tiver Stands to try to make sure if our opponent does draw a threat, at least they won't be able to protect it. So get rid of the Tiver Stands and the other 3. We definitely will not play a creature at this point. Opponent Swampin' passes. Ugh. It's so tempting to play Kotose, but it's just too risky. With Infectious Bite, even if they can't kill the Kotose, we get a poison counter and we just lose. That Roaming Throne did some work. If we were at 7, this would be much different. If we were at 7, I'd feel very good about where we're at. But being at 9 poison just means that any little thing that goes wrong, like any one of those cards just immediately kills us. All right, no land. Come on, hold. Okay, opponent finds a land. Glissa. Okay, that's fine. We can deal with Glissa. Let's Darksley Shores. Shieldred's Edict. Hitting land is nice. We missed a couple land drops there. The funny thing is, too, since we exile so much stuff from our opponent's deck, they become more likely to flood out because the land spell ratio is skewed. So our opponent's deck ends up being more and more lands, so they're more likely to just keep drawing lands. I mean, they still have 2 draws that we die right away if they top deck them. And then, like, Drowned in Ichor, if we don't play a creature, it helps because they'll have to play a creature to kill with it to get the proliferate. Are we salty roping already? We didn't even exile that much opponent. Only 2 things. Give us time. We're working up to it. If you are already salty, oh god. I don't even want to know what you'll be thinking in 10 more minutes. Look at our hand. I mean, we have 2 Kotoses and 2 the ends. So if our opponent ever does... First, if we never get rid of this Infectious Inquiry or Infectious Bite, then we play Kotoses and exile stuff. If they ever draw a creature, we the end it and exile it. Ooh, bloated contaminator. Yes. Well, this is why we did not play a creature, so we didn't get an infectious bit. Well, let's deduce. Draw a land. And a land. This is the end. My one and only friend. Get rid of all the bloated contaminators. So Drowned in Ichor, Vraska, Infectious Inquiry. Those are the 3 cards. Those are the 3 cards that can beat us. I mean, I guess it's also possible that we eventually run out of removal and could die to a creature. I don't think that's super likely at the moment, but... All right, so if we find Stone Brains or anything similar, those are the targets. Well, crack a clue, draw a card. Oh, there's the Stone Brain. Well, that's big. That lets us get rid of one of the cards that could kill us. So I think we Stone Brain. They have the most copies of Infectious Inquiry, right? I mean, I guess technically it's Drowned in Ichor, but Drowned in Ichor they need a creature for. So I'm more scared of Vraska and Infectious Inquiry. So let's get rid of the Inquiries. Because that's just straight up, we die if they get top decked. So now the one card left in our opponent's entire deck, a single copy of Vraska, is auto lose. Drowned in Ichor, our opponent at least needs a creature on the battlefield, and we have a bunch of removal. Let's get down Jace, and probably just mill draw. All right, nothing, nothing too important milled, but that is another Stone Brain, which is kind of huge. Does that mean we lock? Wow, opponent scoops it up. Wow. I was not expecting our opponent to scoop there. They still had outs. But I guess we exiled enough. And once the Stone Brain come down, then they're really in trouble because then they don't have any realistic outs. Well, we didn't exile quite everything that game, but close enough. We are trying to exile our opponent's will to play Magic. All of it, every single piece. And this hand, need to hit a land or two, but assuming we hit a land or two, this hand's fine. We have our single Void Rend. Shout out to Krim. All right, we really, are we up against control? Well, okay, come on, deduce. Be the hero. Don't counter this. All right, we've reached the discard hand size stage of this game. Let's just discard cut down. I'm going to assume that since our opponent has not done anything yet, they're probably blue-white control. All right, there's a land. Uh-oh. We can use Confounding Riddle to dig for a land, which we probably have to. It's the only counter in this entire deck, a single copy of Confounding Riddle, so it does have value. Same with Void Rend. Wow, did our opponent just Farsight Ritual and miss their land drop? That is unfortunate for them. Brutal. Well, I mean, we also missed a land drop, so I guess we're even now. Stone Brain? Urtai's Scorn. All right, opponent's playing a unique take on blue-white control. All right, hits their land drop. Well, we also hit our land drop. Wow, opponent has all the Memory Deluges, Farsight Ritual and Memory Deluge. Do we counter this? They did miss a land drop. Normally, I would not ever counter this, but the fact they missed that land drop 2 turns ago, I think it's right. I think we just counter and try to keep our opponent from hitting their lands. Did they miss a land drop on purpose? Even they could have made a land drop just to see if we can get rid of Memory Deluge. Just to bluff. All right, opponent has a Dissipate. Now, maybe they just drew lands twice in a row. All right, we find a land 2. This feels so bad, but we're going to Deadly Cover. I really want to get rid of these Memory Deluges before our opponent can start flashing them back. Deadly Cover Up on an empty board? There's nothing to kill opponent. Why would you counter this? What an absurd world we live in. Where we're casting a Wrath on an empty board. And our opponents, okay, they are, I was going to say considering countering it, but they literally countered it. We just fought a counter war over a Wrath on an empty board. Kotose, off the top, number 2. Wow, opponent has drawn a lot of Dissipates. Those Dissipates are actually kind of effective here because it's keeping our graveyard empty for future Deadly Cover-Ups. Well, there's a land. Yeah, let's Jace. Do we finally run our opponent out of counters? Do you still have Dissipates and Urtai's? Opponent's got a lot of 3-mana counters. Jace resolves. Who are we milling? I think we mill ourselves. We want to make sure that this Deadly Cover-Up is on. I would have liked those deduces, though. All right, we have a bunch of removal that I don't know if it does anything. Memory Deluge. Ah, it would have been so nice to exile all those. Well, they should find their land drop now. Land. Ooh. It's a Tranquil Cove. Okay, so they still can't Memory Deluge. So there's still a chance we could get rid of... Ooh, there's a Stone Brain. That's not bad. Let's Stone Brain. Really? Well, Jace, Milia, draw.
I will.
Ooh, Hullbreak Horror, okay. Well, let's Deadly Cover Up. Again, on an empty board. Are we gonna counter the Wrath on the empty board again, opponent? Really? Twice in a... Twice in a game! Not only do we cast a Wrath on an empty board twice in a game, our opponent countered it twice in a game. Is Deadly Cover Up just to exile stuff good? Is that what is going on in this game? What is going on with this deck? Oh, another Jace. Well, I think we wait on... do we tick up? We could just replace the Jace with another Jace. Let's go with the Restless Reef. Let's see what our opponent does. They could have removal. Well, get in, hit ya, mill ya. Making our opponent do something this turn. All right, not on my watch, sure. This means our opponent can't flash back the Memory Deluge. Ooh, all right, another Hullbreak Horror. Well, take up Jace. Oh, did we just accidentally mill both of their win cons? Does our opponent only have exactly 2 Hullbreak Horrors to... That's a risky strategy. An extra crispy recipe. Yeah. I don't know why else they would have scooped, but I guess we just milled the 2 Hullbreaks and that's all they had. We are doing some more exiling in Standard, and we got a Stone Brain, we got a Deadly Cover Up, got some card draw, and a Jace. Only a couple lands. We do need to hit more lands, but we should be all right. All right, opponent, what are you up to? Ooh, okay. Let's just Stone Brain. So Trio makes me think Domain, makes me think Atraxa. That is where I'm at now. It is risky to fire off a Stone Brain without knowing what's in your opponent's deck. It is very whiffable, but if you guess right, the reward is high. All right, so non-Triome. Oh, we're gonna name Atraxa. I'm not sure it's Domain now, but Domain doesn't usually play that dual land, but let's give it a go. Magic Gods. Oh, it's Squirming Emergence. Okay, well, we still got some Atraxas, but this deck has a bunch of one-up finishers. The biggest hit is going to be Squirming Emergence. We really got to get rid of that. That's the card that makes this deck work. So they have Hullbreak Horrors, Toxtrol Shins, Virtues. They have a lot of finishers. Italies. Well, okay. Atraxas are down. Next step is we need to get rid of Squirming Emergence somehow. I don't know exactly how. We'll see. Opponent. Founding the Third Path. So if you've never seen the Squirming Emergence deck, it's kind of almost like a loopy deck with Founding the Third Path and Squirming Emergence, because you can like use Squirming Emergence to reanimate Foundry and then use Foundry to cast Squirming Emergence. Let's Jace. And I think we want to target ourselves here. We need cards in our graveyard and a land, hopefully. Okay, we do hit the land. We need cards in the graveyard to collect some evidence for this Deadly Cover Up. So if we hit a land... Well, let's see what our opponent does. I'm imagining they reanimate the Founding here, but we'll see. Yeah, that makes sense. So opponent's going to Squirming Emergence to Foundry, mill some more cards. So if we hit a land, we can get rid of the Squirming Emergences, and we got a shot. That's not a land, but Stone Brain can get rid of the Squirming Emergences. All right, not as good as hitting a land, but that's fine. So get rid of all the Squirming Emergences. This is going to make our opponent play fairly. They're going to have to actually hardcast their finishers. Well, that's actually huge, and that's one of the upsides of this deck. So overall, our goal is to exile all of our opponent's finishers, but in some matchups, if you run into like a combo deck, you don't really need to exile every single card. You just need to exile the important cards. And getting rid of Squirming Emergence is really big. That is a huge one. Opponent going to do some otherworldly gazing into their graveyard. Now we need to hit some lands. So what is our fear now? So this Virtue of Persistence, we only really have one answer to, which is one Void Rend. Well, there's a land. 1, 2, 3. Opponent's only at 5 mana. Let's mill our opponent. Because we have Deadly Cover Up, we kind of are hoping to mill like a Well, was hoping to mill the other virtue and then we just get rid of it that way, but no such luck. I mean, we could attack with the reef. It might be better just to do some deducing. Our opponent still, they shouldn't be able to do anything too devastating this turn. Yeah, let's deduce, see what we hit. Kotose. That is another exile effect, but... Alright, otherworldly gaze. I don't know what we exile. Exile Italies, maybe? Our opponent, unfortunately for us, like, domain, it's pretty much all Atraxas, right? So if you get rid of the Atraxas, you pretty much get rid of the... I mean, I guess, like, Atraxas and Herd Migrations, but if you get rid of, like, 2 finishers, you kind of got them. This deck is, like, 2 Atraxas, 1 Toxtrol, 1 Jin, 1 Titan of Industry, a couple of Tallies. Makes it a little harder with our exile effects to actually get them all. I guess we just deduce, doesn't really matter. Well, we have a lot of removal, so even if our opponent does reanimate something, it doesn't immediately kill us. This is a very weird spot. How can we answer this virtue? Like, the way we lose this game, most obviously, is if virtue just goes unchecked. It will beat us over the course of a few turns. We might need to try to eventually, like, Kotose the Hullbreak Horror, and then cast the Hullbreak Horror, and then use the Hullbreak Horror to keep the virtue off the battlefield. I think that's our best bet. One thing about our opponent's deck is it's usually not very removal heavy. It's pretty reanimator combo-y. Yeah, I think we gotta go Hullbreak, even though I'm most worried about them reanimating a Tally, but a Tally is not going to answer this virtue, and if we get to cast the Hullbreak, that might be able to. So it's actually a pretty big turn. Our opponent should be able to find a land with Otherworldly Gaze. So the question is going to be, do they Titan of Industry? Or do they Virtue? If they Virtue, they're probably going to get 1 Tally at least. All right, opponent leaves them all on top. Interesting. Oh, okay. Invasion of Tavolda. So no land, but they don't need the land. They just get something. All right, Italy, that makes sense. Well, our deck shouldn't be too devastating. Cut down, that's fine. What did our opponent hit? Oh, a Prankster? All right, that could have went way worse. Well, play the land. I still think we need this Hullbreak Horror. We also don't want our opponent to flip this battle, really. We're in a very weird position. Yeah, all right, let's play Jace. I think this turn, so we're not gonna Hullbreak this turn. We're gonna kill the Itali. The other thing we could do is just hit enough lands that we can like Hullbreak plus Shieldred's Edict in the same turn to bounce the Virtue. Milia. Ooh, draw Stone Brain that we can't use yet. So a very interesting game. Land. All right, well, they can play one of their 7-drops. Gonna try to flip the battle. Gonna hit the Jace. Yeah, I mean, I think we need to kill the Itali. If they play the Virtue, they are gonna get to reanimate it most likely. I mean, if they don't play the Virtue, I guess we could try to just Stone Brain it. That might, and then try to beat the Titan, which we probably could do. All right, there's the Virtue. Ooh. Oh, we're 1 land short. So I can get back an Itali or a Jin Gitaxias or a Toxtrol. So if we Wrath, that's not good. Yeah, I think, all right, let's draw. We're gonna keep milling our opponent. They already have all their good finishers, so it's not like we're gonna mill them into a better finisher. Yeah, I think, since they played the Virtue, I think we just gotta probably pass. Hope to survive whatever they reanimate, and then hope that Hullbreak Horror, yeah, we can get in for 4. And then hopefully Hullbreak Horror can bounce the Virtue and whatever they reanimate. I think that's the hope. We'll see if it actually works, but that's the idea here. So opponent Virtue, probably a Tally. Hard to pass up a Tally and 2 other free spells. It could be anything, could even be another Tally. Well, at least we don't have to worry about the Hullbreak. Honestly, if they were reanimating a Hullbreak here, well, I guess they only have 1 card in hand. I was gonna say it'd be really bad, but their deck isn't really set up to maximize Hullbreak. All right, opponent, what are you getting? What? Kotose? Oh, I've been so scared of dying to our opponent's deck. I didn't really think our opponent's down to 19 cards in their library. So I guess they're afraid that we just like top deck a Jace and mill him out. Well, that went way better than I would have thought. We don't really care about Jace. Jace is just to fill the graveyards, to turn on our exile stuff. So we're perfectly fine with this. And we're not facing down an Itali this turn, which is huge. Are we going to get milled out? I don't think we're going to get milled out. 33 cards. Yeah, we still have enough. We're fine. Even if they Jace, we're still going to have like 18 cards. Shieldred. Well, all right. Let's run at the hull break because we're gonna have to sack our Kotose, and if we lose it, we can't hull break. Sack the Kotose, and this hull break might be able to carry here. The hull break might actually be able to carry. Sure. So we definitely need to bounce the Virtue. We need to keep the Shieldred from flipping. Although we can let them try. All right, let's Stone Braid. Bounce the Virtue. I guess if we kill the Kotose, they can't play Jace, but I don't know if I even care if they play Jace. Yeah, let's do some Stone Braiding. Let's just get rid of the Virtue forever. There's one more in the deck too, so this is fine. Our opponent's got so many one-ofs, it's gonna be tricky to exile literally every finisher. Oh wait, oh, they milled it. Okay. Didn't they have two? Am I misremembering this? I thought they had two Virtues. All right, maybe it's just one Virtue. Yeah, I mean, it still had to go. Like, even Stone Brain just to get rid of as a bad thought seize is still pretty good here. I don't know how much reanimation our opponent has left. No Squirming Emergence. I don't think they have an invasion left. Maybe we've gotten through all the reanimation. They can cast the Titan of Industry at some point. Now, how do we get around this Shieldred? Is it worth just wrathing? I think we wait a turn. I don't even think we can really attack. They probably just double block. We kind of need this Hull Break core for now. So we have one instant speed spell that we can use to trigger Hull Break. Opponent plays the tap land. I imagine at some point they're going to Jace. I would be tempted, if I was them and I had the Jace, I would be tempted to try to draw with it. Although our opponent seems very concerned about milling out, but we don't have any Jaces, so it's gonna be very difficult to actually mill them out. Opponent. All right, just gonna mill us all the way. Good thing we still have 32 cards in our deck, so going down to 17. Bunch of stuff gets milled. Lots of evidence to collect. So this flips into like a better Bitter Blossom. So we probably have to answer the Shieldred. Since our opponent tapped out already, or tapped down, we can bounce the Shieldred. Yeah, let's make our opponent sack. Bounce Shieldred. So they don't get to flip the battle. All right, so we're still at 18. I mean, we also have a 7-8. We might just be beating down with our opponent's Hull Break here. That might be the game plan. Let's sack a Clue Draw card. More instants would be nice. Yeah, all right. Shieldred Edict's fine. That is, ooh, and our one of fun of Voidrend. Voidrend I actually, as a one of, I really like. The problem I ran into when I was working on this deck is like, Dimir is not very good at exiling or answering certain things. Mostly enchantments, also artifacts. And there's some like that are kind of annoying. So Voidrend is, even though it's kind of expensive, it is a nice catch-all that just like anything that's a problem, we can get in the graveyard and then exile. Shieldred. So let's Voidrend the battle, bounce the Shieldred. Wait, do we just win? We do have creature lands. Do we just win here? Okay. Well, exiling Squirming Emergence and eventually exiling the Hullbreak cores and getting one of them might be enough to pull this off somehow. Because we can just bounce a Kotose and then attack for lethal, right? Bitter Triumph. Shieldred's Edict. Opponent does not have another land. So I think this just does it. Bounce the Bitter Triumph. Get rid of the Kotose. Get rid of the battle. Opponent cannot cast anything. And fire up the creature lands? GG's. Wow, not the most exile. Well, that was a pretty exile win, I guess. We didn't exile everything, but sometimes it's more important to exile the right things. And yeah. All right. Hullbreak Core, pretty good. Not in our deck, but apparently it doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, this looks like one of our hands. Removal, card draw / counter, exile, exile. What are you up to, opponent? Ugh, another Kotose. I mean, Kotose's actually been pretty impressive. Why does no one play Kotose? This card actually seems good. Oh no, is this Boros? Not pretentious Boros. Playing your flash creatures at instant speed. Pretentious. That is a deep cut reference. Probably 10 of you know what I'm talking about. Maybe not even. Maybe the number is like 0 now. If you know what I'm referencing, let me know in the comments. I'm very curious. We're just gonna die here, aren't we? I'm very curious how many people know that reference. It's a reference to an old video, but what one? A very old video. All right, so opponent has Animpical. We can kill Animpical. I mean, I guess we're pretty much... Oh, Whirlwinder's Call. I mean, I think we're Path of Peril or bust, pretty much. Well, kill the Anim. Opponent gonna pump the dorks, hit us for a ton. Yeah, we need that Path Barrel. Deduce. Not exactly Path of Peril. I think we're going to be pretentious and play our instants to instant speed. Your go, opponent. Taking a break from the Senate, opponent. Yeah, I don't think... Yeah, we're just in a really bad... I think we have to hit a Wrath. I don't think we can afford to counter it. We're going to draw because we got to find a Wrath. We can kill the Resolute Reinforcements. We're going to take 6. And it's pretty much Wrath or bust. And even if we draw a Wrath, we might... Oh boy, another Jace. And death. All good things must come to an end, including our win streak. We didn't exile anything that game, did we? Ouch. And this hand, only 2 blue sources, but that's fine. We'll figure it out. Opponent to Golgari. All right, this should be interesting. Golgari should have some nice exile targets, that's for sure. We would like to draw. All right, that's a land, that's fine. Well, let's play Twara and ship the turn. What are you up to, Dread Knights? Wow, 2 Dread Knights. All right. The only thing I wish is at the end, and this would probably be too overpowered, I kind of wish it worked like Detention Sphere. We also got rid of all the copies on the battlefield, but that might just be too busted. I don't know if we do anything here. We might just be... Yeah, let's run up the Jace. It's a little painful, but we can play the Jace. We can take up on the Dread Knight. If our opponent wants to spend their turn firing up Mishra's Foundry to hit it for 2, thank you, opponent. I guess that was a nice Jace. If they want to fire up the Foundry. If they want to fire up the Creature Land, let's go with that to hit the Jace. Ugh. Sky Turtle. Actually, Ground Turtle, but still, Turtle. Opponent. At least it's taking their turn. That was what I was trying to say about the Mishra's Foundry. I mean, we can deadly cover up in 2 turns. This Rafine's Tower, awkward timing. We would have preferred an untap land. We draw with Jace to see if we hit an untap land. We can also just, yeah, let's just take up. I think the plan is take up on the Dread Knight, play the tap land, pass the turn, go for the Throat the Turtle. And it's kind of the same scenario. If they really want to get rid of Jace, they can fire up creature lands and hit it for a bunch. I don't think they can quite kill it. But we don't want our opponent to keep reanimating, so let's kill the Tortoise. Opponent's thinking about firing up a creature land, I believe. This I believe. Yep, Restless Cottage, sure. So Jace's gonna go to 1? Well, I mean, this is still kind of fine though, right? We kind of time walked them. Our opponent hits the Jace, but they use pretty much all their mana, so they're not adding to the board. We're kind of fine with just slowing things down. Although I wish we were hitting lands. Take up on the Dread Knight. We could have cracked the clue main phase to try to land, but I think I'd rather leave up the end. This is the end. My one and only friend. Mosswood Dread Knight, part 3. Also, unfortunately, can't exile things from exile. Adventure creatures, the bane of our existence. Exile proof. All right, there's a Dread Knight. We kind of just want to hit a land so we can deadly cover up and clean up this board a smidge. Well, let's crack the clue. Untap land, please. Oh, we might have to cash in this Jace. Okay, that's untap land. We might still cash in the Jace. So are we just deadly cover-upping? We can deadly cover up, collect evidence, get rid of Sheoldreds or Turtles. Yeah, let's mill so we have a little more evidence to be collected.
No secret.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty much... Actually, maybe we just got to get rid of the Dread Knights, actually. We can get rid of the Dread Knights so our opponent can't just cast them next turn and draw a bunch of cards. And then we also can get a little glimpse at our opponent's deck and see what else we got to be looking out for. Yeah, I think we got to go Dread Knight. The one in exile is going to be safe, but... so hand, wow, Turtles for days. In the deck, Virtue Nissas, Terra Sunders, go for the Throat. So... Bats, Glissas, 1 Lord Skitter, 2 Lilianas, 1 Turtle, 2 Sheoldreds, Gix, might be doable. It might be doable. There's not that many threats in there. There's a bunch of removal. If we can get rid of Sheoldred and the Turtles, I think those are next. Those are next on our list, especially our opponent has 2 Turtles in hand. I guess we're almost hoping they opponent cracks of food. I'm almost hoping they play a Turtle and then we can just the end. Okay, there's a Turtle. And we get rid of the other Turtle and the Graveyard Turtle when they milled a Sheoldred, okay. Well, opponent's kind of doing our job for us a little bit. Milling some of their threats. And Tenacious Underdog. It's probably time to end the Turtle, I think. We also got to be aware of this Virtue coming down, but we have the Void Ren, so we got to save the Void Ren for the Virtue. Yeah, let's get rid of the Tortoise. So get rid of the one on the deck, get rid of the graveyard. Opponent is going to draw. Yeah, let's play the untap land so we can leave up Shieldred's Edict. Killing the Tenacious Underdog isn't the best, but it could be necessary. Field of Ruin's good too because of the creature lands. We got rid of the tortoises, so I can't get them back easily now. I wish there was a way we could just Shieldred's Edict this land. We would definitely do it. Are we just going full on beatdown mode? Yeah. Here comes the creature lands. We could Shieldred's Edict. I guess we will, but it's just going to eat the underdog, which they can blitz anyway. I mean, I imagine, yeah. Opponent's X underdog. Sure. So we're taking 6 down to 9. We might have to run out Kotose. That might be the next step. We might have to actually just exile the underdog. Even though our opponent, I think, well, only has 1 more in their deck. But if they start blitzing it, it's pretty bad for us. Hold the Void Ren to deal with the Virtue. Gix's Command, I don't think I care too much. We could also like Stone Brain. Field of Ruin answering the creature lands is going to be pretty nice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think we have to. I think we got to get rid of the underdog. I mean, we can get rid of the underdog, and as far as we know, our opponent doesn't have any removal that can kill Kotose. So if we get rid of the underdog, we do want to deal with Shieldred's eventually, but this is the more short-term problem. So underdog's down. We could cast one, but I don't think we will. The problem with casting one is then our opponent can kill it and start blitzing it again. So I think we just have to leave them in exile forever so our opponent can't blitz them. Well, now I guess we're kind of okay with our opponent just playing Virtue. I think we actually just kind of want our opponent to play Virtue so we can Void Ren it and be done with it. If our opponent fires up a creature land, we will snap block. We do not care about those Kotose living. We're not planning on playing these underdogs anyway. I wonder, do they Virtue the Kotose just to make the attack better? They tapped in a way where they can't. Oh, I guess they can play their land, right? And play Glissa. All right, opponent gonna get in, make a food. So what are we going for with the Stone Brain? Do we just have to exile the Virtue? We might have to just exile the Virtue just to... Well, we can still Void Rend it. I don't know. We could get rid of the Shieldreds and try to leave our opponent... Then they don't even have anything in the graveyard to Virtue, really. All right, there's the last Red Knight, the one that was hiding in exile. We actually might just win in 2 turns. Oh, this actually kind of changes things. So we have 2 Jaces. Next turn we'll have 8 mana. That means we can mill 30. So I think we want to Stone Brain something our opponent has several of. What do they have? They have 2 Nissas, right? So if we Stone Brain Nissa, they go to 31 cards. They draw their 30th card, and then we double Jace, mill 30, win. I think that works. Yeah, let's just... I know there's 2 Nissas left in the deck. I know, no. I don't remember everything else, but I do know for sure there's 2 Nissas. I don't know if there's anything better. I think Nissa serves a purpose. So Nissa, 2 in the deck. I guess we gotta get named Liliana too, but that's fine. All right, so Nissa's down. Our opponent, 31 cards in their deck. Pass the turn, opponent, 30 cards in their deck. Oh, Deep Cavern Bat. All right, well, we just gotta kill that then, because we need these Jaces for the kill. Well, this is gonna be a pretty Jacey kill, but still. Yeah, Void Ren. Crim the bat out of here. And yeah, you can see your death sitting in our hand. Our opponent can almost kill us, but not quite. They can hit us for 3 with the Dread Knight, 4 with the creature land. I think they're 1 mana short from firing up the Mishra's Foundry, if I count it correctly. So he can hit us to 2, but 2's not dead. And our opponent's library about to be empty. Opponent hits us. I mean, in some ways, this was an exile win, right? Exiling those 2 cards was necessary for us to be able to actually mill our opponent out before we died. Jace the Perfected Mind. Mill ya for 50. And do it one more time. And we know our opponent's hand. There's no way they're 2ing us on our upkeep or their upkeep or anything. And there's the GGs. And good enough. Apparently we exiled the right stuff. And drew 2 Jaces. If we only drew 1 Jace, this would not have worked. So I guess we also got kind of lucky to draw double Jace, but yeah. And here you go. Opponent's gonna crack their food. I don't think life is your problem this game, opponent. Well, got him, and this deck is oddly working. We are trying to exile everything in standard, playing some I don't even know what to call this deck. Basically, it reminds me a little bit. I don't know if you remember. Long time ago, Kaya won the Against Odds Bowl. So we had to build a Kaya deck in Modern. And it ended up being Kaya's Extraction. And it was like Kaya, because Kaya can like exile stuff from the graveyard and cares about stuff in exile. Opponent up the Beanstalk. Is this... What is this? Is this domain? I mean, who else plays up the Beanstalk? Cavern on Dinosaur. Topiary. Could it be dinosaurs? It could be a dinosaur deck, I guess. But I don't know if you remember, it reminds me of Kaya's Extraction. Kaya's Extraction also kind of had a similar idea where we tried to use like surgical extractions and extirpates to exile all the win cons. Kind of reminds me of that. I will say there are things I'm enjoying about Standard being bigger. And it's decks like this, or like the 36 Wrath deck, that just would not exist if Standard was smaller. Like, we wouldn't have enough exile effects, extirpate effects in Standard to actually build this deck. So even though, there's things I don't like about it, there are things I'm coming to like some aspects of Standard being 3 years instead of 2. Up to 6 mana. What do you got? What do you got, opponent? What do you got? Imodane's Recruiter. Draws with up a Beanstalk. I mean, we can Path of Peril at some point. Yeah, I guess let's get... Void Rend is so valuable because it's our only catch-all, but I think we should get rid of this up the Beanstalk. I guess arguably we should have done it earlier. Can we draw land? No. So if we Path of Peril, the Stomper survives. Next land drop, it turns on. I think we just pass. Let's just pass for now. Opponent. Nissa. Well, Shieldred's Edict can handle that. This kind of worked out, holding on to the Path of Peril. So we can Shieldred's Edict, get rid of the Nissa. And then, if we want to, we can go for the Throat or Edict, I guess. Maybe we just Edict. That might be better. So we can Edict away the Topiary Stomper, and then we can just clean everything up with this Path of Peril, and eventually we'll hit a land for the Deadly Cover-Up. 2 Path of Perils. Well, Path of Peril. Sweep them away. If you keep the board clean, Imodane's Recruiter, not as much of a concern. Nissa? Oh, Atraxa? All right. Yeah. All right. So it's definitely just the domain deck. So Herd Migration. So the two big finishers, Atraxa, Herd Migration. We don't want to get hit by Atraxa. Do we just Deadly Cover Up? So we can Deadly Cover Up. Blow up Atraxa. Get rid of the Atraxa and the one in our opponent's hand. And they might have more. They probably have more. Okay, this is pretty good. So Atraxa down, Atraxa out of hand, and we get to get a good look at what we need to deal with. So Herd Migration, that can kill us. Archangel of Wrath, that can kill us. Topiary Stomper, that's not that much, actually. I mean, I guess if they flip the battle, that could kill us. But that requires some extra steps. Okay, this might be realistic. I actually feel like, I don't know if it'll work out here. We kind of like stumbled around and missed some land drops, but I kind of feel like the domain deck should be... All right, there's a Herd Migration, but we got the Path of Peril. I actually feel like the domain deck should be one of our better matchups, maybe. Well, let's Path of Peril. We gotta get rid of the beast, or we will die. And play the land, and ship the turn. I don't think we want to play the Stone Brain because they can just leyline binding it. So I think the next thing we got to get rid of is definitely Herd Migration because we're running light on Wraths. So Herd Migration, all right, there's a Stomper that we can go for the throw. Herd Migration, Angel, Stomper. Invasion of Zendikar, gonna do some ramping. Yeah, we probably have to kill the Stomper. We don't really want our opponent to flip this Invasion of Zendikar if we can help it. We're kind of running low on resources at the moment. Stone Brain and a cut down that doesn't really do anything in this matchup. All right. All right, opponent. Come on, deck. The end. Okay, so that's actually a good answer to the Angel. So when our opponent plays the Angel from their hand, we can exile it and the rest of them. And then we basically just got to deal with Stompers and we kind of lock it up. All right, Stone Brain, get rid of the Herd Migrations. This plan actually is actually oddly effective. It's one of those things like we're getting near the end of the standard, right? Where we're going to have our new set. We're going to have Outlaws of Thunder Junction very soon. So decks are like, the tier decks at least, you get a pretty good sense of what they're playing. We know the good decks, we know the good cards. So you kind of get a sense of like, even going into a matchup, if you see Domain, you kind of know Atraxa, Herd Migration, whatever. Or like everyone's playing the same handful of things. And you can really punish decks with cards like Stonebrain if you can name in the dark. Like if you know, and we've seen some bad namings throughout our video. All right, here comes the Archangel. Oh, all right, this is what I was hoping they wouldn't do. I was hoping they'd just hit our face. All right, so we're gonna need like one more Wrath, I think. If we can find one more Wrath, so we can deal with the Angels. The problem is, they're gonna have 2 Invasion of Zendikars. I might have underestimated Invasion of Zendikar's ability to turn into a 4/4 and kill us. All right, I think we're like a Wrath away from essentially locking this game up. We get rid of the Angels this turn. We have 2 turns to find a Wrath to deal with these Awoken Skyclaves. And then we should be good. We don't really care about Sunfalls and temporary lockdowns. You can't leyline binding your own stuff, so you can't like use it to fizzle the end. Yeah, let's get rid of the Angels. I mean, I think that's pretty much what it comes down to. So at this point, our opponent's deck's just going to be all removal in Topiary Stompers, and I guess the other Invasion is Zendikars. So if we can find a way to deal with these 2 things on the board, our opponent's we have almost exiled everything relevant. We are close. But we're also on a 2-turn clock, which is sketchy. And this cut down doesn't do anything. So we kind of need to like just draw a Wrath next turn. If we just draw a Deadly Cover Up, I think we probably can win this game. They also have this Imodane's Recruiter, which is worth keeping in mind. We can actually cut down the Imodane's Recruiter. I think that's like the one target that it actually hits in our opponent's deck. Opponent untaps, cycles the Proving Ground, and plays a Recruiter. Well, we're just gonna kill it before it pumps. So we're going to take 10. Maybe we could get there with targeted removal. It's not impossible. Our opponent's removal is not very good at stopping our creature land from blocking for a turn. So we can probably deal with one of these by blocking. All right, down to 6. I mean, it's going to come down to these last couple of draws. Splunking. Opponent going to draw a card. And put a land into play, I presume. We've exiled a lot of stuff, but not quite enough. We have 2 Deadly Cover-Ups left. We have a Path of Peril, which we could cleave. Well, okay, deduce. That's a redraw. Wrath. Stonebrain. If we draw the Wrath, Stonebrain pretty much closes it out, because then we get rid of the Stompers, and our opponent literally has no threats left. But we need to draw the Wrath. Wrath into Stonebrain, and we did it to Domain. Oh, that depends on us top decking this turn. Your go. So we can stay alive by blocking with the Reef. Our opponent shouldn't be drawing anything too scary. Hopefully they don't draw a Stomper. As long as they don't draw another threat, technically a targeted removal spell would also stabilize us for now. We're like so close to stabilizing. Our opponent has what, 2 Stompers left in their deck? That's the only creatures in existence. So they shouldn't really have anything. The removal we don't really care about. They probably could, no, really? That's unfortunate. Oh, opponent was like 10% to draw a creature there. They're 2 Stompers out of 21 cards. So now targeted removal doesn't do it. It's got to be a Wrath. That's a land. Okay, so we can crack the clue and still cover up if we hit it. Oh, go for the throw. That would have worked if they hadn't drawn that Stomper. We exiled a lot, but not quite enough that game. Oh, so close. We are seeing if we can exile every single relevant card from our opponent's deck, making it impossible for them to actually kill us. We don't even really want to kill our opponent. I mean, it'll happen eventually. Oh, Dimir, we're gonna duress our Stonebrain. It'll happen eventually, but really, we just want to exile it all until our opponent gives up. That's a real plan. Opponent takes the end. Well, it's the end of the end. Stonebrain, go. Oh, this is gonna be a bad Stonebrain. Okay, it's Dimir. Well, I guess we could pass and just Confounding Riddle. It's Dimir. We got Duressed. It could be Control. Probably more likely to be mid-range. All right, let's pass. Let's just pass. We can counter something or we can do the anticipate thing. Dismal Backwater. That seems slightly more controlling. If you're playing Lazab, it's got to be Dimir mid-range, I assume. I don't think we're going to counter that. We can just kill that later. I think we'd rather make sure we hit our land drop. We really don't want to miss a land here. Well, we're not going to miss a land. They're all of our lands. We actually need a double black, don't we? Awkwardly. Yeah, I think we need the second black source. White is not very essential. We want it eventually. Well, okay, even more black mana. So I guess it's got to be Preacher, right? It's got to be Preacher. I am not super confident in the Stone Braining, but I think Preacher of the Schism makes the most sense. That's usually a 4 of in every Dimir deck. Oh, Archfiend Shieldred, Coveted 0. All right, we're gonna cheat a little bit. Not really cheat. I was thinking I should write down all the card names so we know what we need, but I think it's actually easier just to snap a couple pictures here. Yeah, let's just take some pictures. I just want to remember what we need to exile next, because we've gotten in trouble before by not remembering what needs to be exiled. So it seems like the plan of our opponent's deck is to give us an Archfiend to draw us with the Falcon. Cryptic Coat's gonna be annoying. We don't have an easy answer for Cryptic Coat. I guess we need to mill it and then get rid of it. Well, we Stone Brain to see what was in our opponent's deck. Yeah, there's the Coat. So I guess we could Kotose a Lazov. We really need to get rid of Shieldreds and Archfiends. Those are the big ones. I mean, I guess we can just cut down the face down creature for 3 mana, thanks to Ward. I don't really want a Deadly Cover-Up yet. There's just not anything good to exile. And only 1 creature on the battlefield. Opponent, combat. We want them to play at least a Shielder to Archfiend first, and then we can Deadly Cover-Up and get rid of all of them. It seems like those are the biggest threats, right? The Falcon's not very good if there's no Archfiend. All right, another face down card. That's gotta be the Falcon. Still nothing good to really exile. Well, I guess I can't kill it. Yeah, let's mill our opponent. Land. Ooh, okay, that's actually pretty good. So we got an Archfiend in the graveyard. So that means we can Kotose to get rid of all the Archfiends at least. And then our opponent's combo's off the table. Might also let us keep our Jace alive. Opponent hits us. Ooh, they did find the land. All right, don't play the Archfiend. Play Shieldred. If they play the Archfiend, the Kotose gets a lot more awkward here. All right, they play the Shieldred. We get drained. Now it might be better just to Wrath. We collect evidence. The question is, do we get rid of all the Shieldreds or are the Archfiends? I'm usually super scared of Shieldred, but Archfiend might actually be even better here. It is big, and we don't actually currently have a removal spell. That is, I mean, it's one of those two. They have one of each in hand. There's definitely 4 Archfiends, right? There's also 4 Shieldreds, I think. Opponent loves their 4 drops. Let's go Shieldred, I think. I mean, Shieldred's $90. Archfiend's like $1. Tiebreaker, go with the card that's most expensive. All right. Wow, ooh, that actually worked out perfectly. They had two Shieldreds in hand. Okay, we guessed wisely. And now we get to take up the Jace to keep it alive. Okay, that actually worked out perfectly. If I had known they had 2 Shieldreds, I would have not even thought about it. I definitely would have just snapped off Shieldreds. Our opponent still does get to draw a card. That's where Kotose is actually oddly better, is it doesn't replace the cards you take out of your opponent's hand with it. Good little surveilling, leaves it on top. And, oh, they duress. They're not gonna play the Archfiend. Wow, this worked out really well. So we're gonna get rid of all the Archfiends and all the Shieldreds? All right, face down creature. Sure, probably a Falcon, but we get to Kotose, snag the Archfiend, get rid of all the Archfiends, and our opponent. So the problem we have is basically just Cryptic Coat. I guess they have Kaidos, which are kind of annoying, but it's pretty much just Cryptic Coat. The problem is Cryptic Coat's very repeatable. Can we actually beat a Cryptic Coat? We don't really have a way to kill it. I guess we have a Void Rend somewhere. About it, Restless Reef. Ooh. Do we block? Oh, I think we do. If we don't block, we get to play an Archfiend. But if we do block, we get to keep the Jace? Yeah, let's just block. Keep the Jace around for now. Draw a Surveil land. Well, let's Surveil. Yeah, Deduce is probably worth keeping. Mill our opponent, draw a couple cards. What we really need is the Void Rend. If we can get the Cryptic Coat in the graveyard. The end is not good against mysterious creatures. I mean, it's fine. You can still kill something, but it's not going to exile anything extra. Eliminate the impossible. Investigate creatures your opponent can control with -2, -0 until end of turn. Sure. We could always take Numet back. There is a negate in hand, so you got to play around the negate. I assume at some point our opponent's going to start bouncing this Cryptic Coat. Let's crack the clue. Void Rend. I'll deduce. Okay. More card draw is fine. Play the land and pass the turn. I mean, thankfully we're at 18, so we're not under like super immediate gonna die pressure, but this Cryptic Coat is an annoyance. That is just not an easy thing for us to exile. Because if our, we don't have counters, and it keeps bouncing back to hand, and it's an artifact, everything about that is annoying for us. Cryptic Coat, land. There's the Cryptic Coat, sure, found it. More mysterious creatures, sure. And, well, let's take Numa. We might actually just take Numa for Kotose. At least Kotose can block, and it doesn't get negated. Like, Jace would maybe be better if it was going to resolve. Well, let's deduce. We have enough mana where we can Kotose and play something. If only we could catch that Cryptic Coat in our opponent's hand somehow. I don't know how we make that happen without the Void Rend. So what would we take? Our opponent's graveyard. We exiled all their good stuff. Maybe we just take Haunted Bone Brute. Doesn't feel great. Plus it trades with the mysterious creature. Are we taking the silly Investigate? Eliminate the impossible? That might actually be we can just kind of fog for a turn. It's kind of like a weird fog against 2 power creatures, and we get a clue out of it. And if they want to counter it, I guess that's fine. We got the negate out of their hand for minimal value. We could take the Falcon. I mean, we also know there's a bunch of these in our opponent's deck. The only awkward part is we literally do not care about our opponent casting them. Could take the Lazov. Yeah, I think it's honestly just eliminate the impossible, as odd as that is. So we just like fog for a turn, get a clue, draw more cards, try to find Void Rend, try to find a Wrath. And it's probably bad enough that our opponent's not gonna negate it. It doesn't seem that good. And it does get 2 more cards out of our opponent's deck. I mean, it's so funny how games play out with this. If it wasn't for Cryptic Coat, our opponent would really be doing nothing. They would be doing almost literally nothing. Because we exiled the Archfiends and the Shieldred, so they just like don't have any big hitters left. We exiled their most relevant and exciting cards. It's so funny just like how games play with this deck. Opponent, eaten by piranhas on Kotose. Sure, makes it a 1/1. Doesn't really matter. We can still eliminate the impossible. Yeah, well, Foggy. Almost Foggy. I guess we take 1. Wow. Negate on the fog. I guess we just chump. Drop to 13. They can just keep doing this all day. Oh, wait. Oh, they have the land. Okay. I was thinking they were going to leave it in their hand, and then we could Stonebrain it. Well, now we probably got a Wrath. Blow them up, blow them up. And your go, opponent. Gix and Duress and a Falcon. Well, let's play the Stonebrain, and let's get rid of the rest of the Cryptic Coats. If we get rid of the rest, there's no way we're ever going to get rid of this Cryptic Coat with a Stonebrain. It's just not, it's not possible, because we have to activate as a sorcery. Well, we could go Falcon. I just don't care about Falcon, though. Falcon doesn't do anything. It's a 1/4. Yeah, let's just get rid of the rest of the Cryptic Coat. So if somehow we draw the Void Rend and can get rid of the one on the battlefield, this is also the most milling we can get out of it, getting 3 copies out of our opponent's deck. Well, we got to deal with a single Cryptic Coat. I don't know if that's possible, but if we do, I think we exiled enough to maybe win. But there is definitely a risk that we just die to this silly Cryptic Coat. Card's actually pretty good. I feel like I should play Cryptic Coat more. Every time I've played it, I've been impressed with it. I just haven't played it as much as I probably should. All right, opponent passes. We draw a Field of Ruin. That's good against creature lands, at least. Yeah, all right. Get rid of the face down creature. It's just such a losing battle. Like, there's gonna be more. It was a Risen Reef. There's always gonna be more with a Cryptic Coat around. This is like the window, right? That's the window where if our opponent's tapped down enough, we could Void Rend it as our opponent tries to pick it up. But we don't have the Void Rend anyway. Technically, we don't even have a white source yet. Opponent, more mysterious creatures, and I was thinking about Field of Ruining to get a white source, but I don't think it's really worth it. Deadly Cover-Up. We can collect 46 evidence at the moment. It's a lot of mana values in the graveyard. All right, I think we gotta wait. Our opponent's getting to the point where they're gonna be able to do this twice in a turn, I think, pretty soon. So I think we need the mysterious creatures to build up a bit before we go for the deadly cover-up. Bona hits us down to 11. I mean, plus we're still at 11, so we can afford to take a hit or two. Cryptic Coat. Where'd that come from? Imagine that. A Cryptic Coat and a mysterious creature. Well, there's the plains. Yeah, we can take another hit, right? We dropped to 6? I think that's fine. Opponent gonna pick up the coat. Sure. Opponent's also getting to the point where I have so much mana that I'm not even sure we could void run the coat. We're probably just gonna have to find a way to win through the coat, but I'm not sure exactly what that is. Opponent, it's just so repeatable. We've had a ton of removal. Yeah, let's end just to fizzle a little bit of damage here. We're just kind of stalling out at the moment. I don't even know what we're stalling for. Probably, honestly, a Jace. Well, we get to look and see what our opponent has left. 2 Gixes, 1 Kaido, a Lazov, a Bone Brute, a bunch of lands, and 1 Negate, a couple of removal spells. Not a ton. Their hand is a bunch of... These Coveted Falcons look so bad. I'm sure it's really sweet when you get someone with Archfiend, but with the Archfiends being exiled, the Falcons seem so underpowered. They're probably just better off as face-down creatures, honestly. Pound it, Cryptic Coat. The Kaido could be an issue. All right, opponent plays the Kaido. If we can draw a Jace. Oh, wait, 16. Yes. Oh, this is hilarious. Oh, wait, okay, hang on. I think we can do this so we literally win with Devious with Deadly Cover-Up. So we can play the Jace, mill our opponent down to 1 card in their deck, and then we Deadly Cover-Up, exile Falcons, get the 2 in our opponent's hand. The drawing a card for the things exiled from your hand is not a May. So our opponent's gonna draw 2 cards with 1 card in their library and mill out right now, which I guess probably didn't matter. Like, we could mill them out over the course of a couple turns. Although, who would have thought that Deadly Cover-Up could actually be a win con? Like, this is literally a win con. Deadly Cover-Up is the card that is making us win the game, and opponent with the explosion, and wow. Well, I mean, sweet. This deck actually was really good. Like, way better than it should have been. And definitely way more hilarious. So what did we learn today about trying to exile every meaningful card from our opponent's deck? And I gotta say, I was expecting this deck to be kind of bad, but hopefully a couple of times we'd like do the thing and exile all of our opponent's cards. But it turned out that this deck's actually like legitimately good. The top tier decks in Standard are so set in stone, and so many people are playing the same exact cards that the idea of just exiling the 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 meaningful cards from our opponent's deck so they can't win actually worked incredibly well. We went 9-4 with the deck overall for a very nice 69% match win percentage, but I think this deck might oddly kind of be legit. Like, we got to see it happen. We had a couple of games where we literally exiled every single non-land card from our opponent's deck. We actually pulled that off, and the good news is, in a lot of matchups, we don't even have to do that. We run into, like, Squirming Emergence combo, and if we can exile those Squirming Emergences, it becomes really hard for our opponent to win. Or, like, Conspiracy Unraveler combo. If you get rid of Conspiracy Unraveler and Breach the Multiverse, it's really difficult to win. So some decks in Standard are built so heavily around 1 or 2 key cards that just 1 or 2 Stone Rains or Deadly Cover-Ups will actually be able to get rid of all we need to get rid of to actually win the game. And this deck led to some hilarious games. Probably my favorite part of this, well, okay, 2 favorite parts. My number 1 favorite part is when we literally exiled every single non-land against the mono white deck. That was just so sweet. But my second favorite is we were playing against that control deck, and we kept getting to these really weird scenarios where we were casting Deadly Cover-Up with no creatures on the battlefield just to try to collect evidence and do the exile thing. And it was actually so good that our opponent was spending counter spells to counter our Deadly Cover-Up on an empty battlefield, even though they had no creatures. So we were essentially repeatedly casting Wrath with no creatures on the battlefield, but the Wrath was so good on the empty battlefield that our opponent actually had to counter it. So this deck, as weird as it sounds, I think it's actually pretty legit in Standard. I will say, This deck is not for someone who doesn't play a lot of standard. Like, if you don't know what's in your opponent's deck, you are going to struggle with this deck because you're not going to know what to name, you're not going to know what's important to Deadly Cover-Up or the end. Also worth noting, and we finally figured this out like halfway through the video, if you do decide to try this deck, once you activate your first search your opponent's library card to exile stuff, try to keep track of what's in their deck and what matters. The first one is really valuable. We had a couple of Stone Brains that like straight up whiffed, but were still really valuable because it let us know exactly what was in our opponent's deck. I actually started taking screenshots of our opponent's deck just so I'd have a reference and be able to remember. You could also just like write everything down so you know, but you really just want to make a hierarchy of things that you need to exile. Maybe the best example of this was the game against Toxic, where our opponent really quickly got us up to 9 Toxic, but then we got to see their deck and we realized there were 3 cards that could just directly kill us, either give us a pointies encounter or immediately proliferate. So we were able to focus on getting rid of those cards, and eventually we got rid of all of them, and our opponent just didn't have the juice left to actually be able to close out the game and ended up scooping it up. So if you don't know standard really well, you're going to struggle with this deck. You really got to be able to name off, okay, against Domain, what are the 5 things that can kill me? Against Esper, what are the 5 things that can kill me? If you can't do that, probably don't try this deck because you're probably going to struggle with it. But if you play a lot of standard, the deck actually, just like Lantern Control in Modern, really rewards you for knowing your opponent's deck and being able to take advantage of it with these exile effects. So that's our deck for today. Way better than I ever would have thought, and I find it really fun to play. I always love Lantern Control, and this has that same feeling of like piecing together this puzzle that eventually makes it so your opponent just can't win the game. We're not even trying to win the game. We're trying to put our opponent in a position where they can never win the game. And if we do that, we kind of win the game accidentally by association because our opponent can't win, so we win by default, the 2 sweetest words in the English language. So anyway, that's our deck. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you soon.